We've all been there, right? That moment you dread. It's the dead of winter and the furnace just goes silent. Or it's a scorching July afternoon and the AC is blowing warm air. It is so stressful, it's confusing, and you know it always happens at the absolute worst time. But why? Why do these systems fail, and what can you actually do about it? Okay, let's dive into this, because honestly, understanding the why is the very first step to taking back control. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look at what I call your home's climate battlefield. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the anatomy of a breakdown. After that, I'll give you a super powerful tool, the critical $5,000 rule. We'll talk about the power of prevention, and finally, we'll wrap up by decoding the service call so you know exactly what to expect when you pick up the phone. All right, first up, your home's climate battlefield. You know, we tend to think of weather as just weather. It's hot, it's cold. But for your home's heating and cooling system, the environment is anything but passive. It's really an active opponent, waging a constant, unseen war on the equipment you rely on every single day. Which raises a really interesting question. Why do HVAC systems seem to have a much shorter, more brutal life in some places compared to others? I promise you, it's not just bad luck. It's all about geography, and it's a critical piece of this whole puzzle. So to really get this, let's zoom in on a case study. Our source material points right to Rockford, Illinois, and it says, and I quote, "It's one of the harshest HVAC stress zones in America." And believe me, that is not an exaggeration. Let's break down what this assault actually looks like. First, you've got these extreme freeze-thaw cycles. Think about bending a paperclip back and forth. Eventually, it just snaps. That's what's happening to the metal in your system. Then you've got moisture from the lake effect causing corrosion. Add in the humidity from the river valley, and top it all off with furnaces that are forced to run for more than 18 hours a day in the winter. It is a relentless, multi-front attack that just grinds the equipment down. Okay, so we see the battlefield, but how does this war actually lead to a system failure? Well, that brings us to the anatomy of a breakdown, where we're going to see the direct consequences of all that climate stress. Here's a classic winter scenario. You're at home, and suddenly, the furnace just stops. The house gets quiet. What's often going on? Well, in modern high-efficiency furnaces, a little bit of water is a normal byproduct. But when the weather gets brutally cold, like sub-20 degrees, the small drain line for that water can freeze solid. When that happens, a safety switch flips and shuts the whole system down. It's just trying to protect your house from water damage. Now, this next one is on a whole other level of serious. A cracked heat exchanger. All that constant expanding and contracting from those wild temperature swings, it causes metal fatigue and eventually cracks. And this isn't just about being uncomfortable. A cracked heat exchanger can leak deadly, odorless carbon monoxide right into your home. This is a red alert, non-negotiable safety failure. And what about the summer? You notice your AC just isn't what it used to be. It feels weaker and weaker until, poof, it gives up. The culprit here is usually corrosion. Remember that humidity we talked about? It attacks the outdoor unit, creating tiny little pinhole leaks in the copper lines. Your AC then slowly and silently bleeds out refrigerant, its cooling lifeblood, until one day, it's just gone. Okay, so now you're in the hot seat, you're facing a major repair bill. And this brings you to one of the most stressful decisions. Do you sink more money into repairing it, or is it time to replace the whole thing? This next section is going to give you a simple but really powerful formula to help you decide. It's called the critical $5,000 rule. So what is this rule? It's a quick calculation you can do right on the spot. It's super simple. You take the age of your system, in years, and you multiply it by the estimated cost of the repair. If that number you get is more than $5,000, then replacement is probably the smarter financial move in the long run. Let's look at a real-world example. Let's say you have a furnace that's 15 years old. The tech tells you it's a $400 repair. So you multiply 15 years by $400 and you get $6,000. Because that's over the $5,000 threshold, the rule is basically screaming at you that you're about to throw good money after bad on a system that's already near the end of its life. Now that you know how to handle a breakdown when it happens, let's shift gears. How do you stop them from happening in the first place? This brings us to the power of prevention, because being proactive is always, always better than being reactive. And the numbers on this are pretty compelling. Getting regular annual maintenance isn't just some minor checkup. It can literally extend the life of your equipment by a solid 3 to 5 years. And not only that, a well-maintained system runs at peak efficiency, which translates directly into lower energy bills for you. So what does a tune-up actually involve?
Well, a good technician inspects for those dangerous heat exchanger cracks we were just talking about. They test all the safety controls. They measure the refrigerant charge to make sure you're not having one of those slow leaks. They clean the coils, clear the drains. In short, they address all the major failure points we just discussed before they can leave you freezing or sweating.
But look, even with the best prevention, sometimes you just have to make that call. I know it can be a stressful experience, so our final section is all about decoding the professional service call. We want to remove that uncertainty so you feel like you're in control of the situation. A quality service experience should really follow a clear, simple path. It starts with an immediate dispatch. Next, a clear diagnosis followed by transparent pricing. And this is key before any work begins. Then, of course, the completed repair. And finally, a good company will give you a follow-up call a few days later, just to make sure everything is still running perfectly. Here's a huge pro tip to look for when it comes to pricing. Finding a company that prices by the job, not by the hour, is a total game changer. It gets rid of that fear of a ticking clock and a bill that just spirals out of control. You agree on a price upfront, and that is the price you pay, period. And here are the green flags, the hallmarks of a true professional. They respect your time by showing up when they say they will. They respect your home, wearing shoe covers and keeping things clean. They explain the problem in plain English, not technical jargon. They give you a written estimate. And most importantly, they stand behind their work with a solid guarantee on both labor and parts. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's simple, really. Yes, your climate is tough on your equipment, no doubt about it, but you are not helpless. Proactive maintenance and smart, informed decisions, like using that $5,000 rule, put you right back in the driver's seat. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. Now that you understand how your specific climate is impacting your home's equipment, what is the single most important step you can take this season to protect your comfort system and to protect your own peace of mind?